think also there was an element of a free hit for Roy in that Euros because he'd literally only just taken over a month or so beforehand. He'd not had any chance really to put his own stamp on the team. He took on Capello's team really. Since then we've had the World Cup, which was a bit of a debacle really. They were out after 2 games. He's now had 4 years. Interesting, there's been this rush of young players that have come through over the last year or so, but really this is the team that is Roy Hodgson's. He's had it for 4 years. I think failure is not an option, glorious or otherwise. I'm not sure there would be a glorious failure, not unless it gets to the semi-final and they lost on penalties or whatever, the usual sort of thing. I think they first mission, get out of the group, which I think they should. I think really minimum requirements for Roy Hodgson in England is the quarter-finals, and even then, as you say, that's when it comes in. How do they go out, or can they progress? I do think they'll get out of the group, but then they must, for me, at least get to the quarter-finals. For Roy Hodgson to think his position is reasonably secure.
I would agree. I mean, one thing that is good is this 24-team format. The last 2 times have been Mexico 86 and Italia 90, and it kind of suited England. I mean, that terribly slow start in Mexico, but because of the format, all they had to do was win that last game against Poland, and then same thing in Italia 90. They made a slightly stuttering start, but because it's a slower tournament in a way, and you don't tend to face really top teams until the quarter-final, which is not necessarily the case at the World Cup. That has seemed to suit England in the past. I mean, do you think we can look at those 2 tournaments and think, well, maybe they can draw something from that structure of the tournament?
Well, both of those tournaments, if you remember, under Bobby Robson was getting the most fearful hammer from the media about the way things were going. But as you say, the format gave England a bit more wiggle room, gave them time to grow into the tournament, if you like. And I think it was the quarterfinals they reached in 86, and then of course the semi-finals in 1990, when they were very, very unlucky to lose to West Germany on penalties. I'm sure they would have actually beaten a very weak Argentina team in the final. So maybe there is that wiggle room, but as I said, the bottom line is they need to make a quick start. Don't leave anything to chance. Don't think for a second, oh well, of course, if we don't do well here, we still got that little bit of room for manoeuvre. Do the job for yourself. Don't leave it in anyone else's hands. And I'm sure that's what Roy Hodgson will be saying to the players. We spoke to Wayne Rooney last night. Very positive, very excited. Hodgson the same. The only proviso is we've heard it all before. What matters is what happens up the road, a few hours on from here. Get a win, then the mood will be great. Going into the Wales game, England will be confident. If Wales win as well, then that's going to be one hell of a game.
What a setup that would be! Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned before, just because I know you follow Everton very closely. John Stones, and I really like John Stones. I think he is such a naturally gifted player. And I would like to see him in this. I know it's been a terrible season for Everton, and that's probably one of the reasons why he's probably not going to start. But I mean, have you thought about that, and would you like to see him some way included? Even, I mean, I wondered if he might play a sweeper role in front of the defence, because his passing can be phenomenal.
Yeah, I personally think you need John Stones as a central defender. I think the problem with John Stones was, I agree with everybody else that there's an outstanding defender in there waiting to get out, but at Everton under Roberto Martinez, defending was almost like an optional extra in that team, as was true towards the end of the season, where they were in danger of leaking goals every time the opposition was somebody's birthday across the road.
Oh, great. It's your birthday.
Not mine, no, not sadly. But anyway, what happened was it was almost his game was allowed to fall into disrepair under Martinez, and that ball-playing style that he had was leading to mistakes. But Martinez, instead of saying, look, you need to be happy to kick it into Rosehead, or don't worry, they won't score a goal if you put it in the car park, he was almost encouraging him to keep playing. This led to more mistakes. The crowd became anxious. Stones became anxious. And towards the end of the season, lots of elements of his game had fallen apart. Even the positional sense, which was normally so good, that had all gone. I suspect from what we've heard that since the end of the season, while he's been away with England, there's been a little bit of rebuilding of confidence, but maybe not enough to get him back in the team right away. Still wouldn't surprise me to see him in the team at some stage, but I wouldn't tinker with his positioning about people talk about him as a sweeper or as a holding midfield player.
No.
John Stones is a central defender. He's got all the tools to be an outstanding central defender. So that is where I would keep him. And possibly as the tournament goes on, I suppose the worry is that it might take mistakes for him to be picked, and you don't really want that to happen either.
No.
But for me, John Stones is the future, and I personally think if he'd been playing anything like his best, he would have been in ahead of Gary Cahill.
Absolutely. I don't think that's for us either.
No, it's busy.
This is what happens. There's apparently a few England fans in town. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think his range of passing as well. He can defend, which is obviously the primary thing he has to do. But I mean, his range of passing is fantastic. So yeah, we hope to see him. Any ideas on the team tonight? Have you got any inside info,
Phil? There's all sorts of whispers. I mean, earlier in the week there was talk that Sterling was going to play. Then we hear today that possibly Sterling mightn't play and Henderson might play. Again, we don't really know. Roy's very secretive about his team, but the people who sort of are in the know and get the inside information were quite certain that Sterling would play, and yet suddenly there's a whisper he might not. Again, we just have to wait until it comes out. We're all guessing. I think I recall in Brazil, was it, when England played Italy in Manaus, it was right at the last minute, suddenly news that Sterling was going to play. He was there and he did play. So I think Roy does occasionally like to, for a conservative man as we called him, he does occasionally like to spring the odd surprise, so we'll wait and see. But the latest whisper is Jordan Henderson, but really I don't know that. I will wait like you until the team sheet drops, then we can see what he's done.
Absolutely, and there's only one way to tell, and that's to be at the new Velodrome tonight. Have you been there?
Yeah, I went up there last night for the press conferences. I think the last time I was in this place, the stadium was only half built. They were rebuilding it with this in mind, and we were up there last night, and it's just a fantastic arena. I think it's over 60,000 capacity. When you get there, it's just breathtaking. They've got this wonderful sort of state-of-the-art roof that curves around. Just a fantastic arena for football, and the great thing is you don't feel as if you're miles away from it either. The stands are quite steepling, and it really is a fantastic footballing arena, and something that the city of Marseille should be very proud of, because they've put a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money into it, and when people see it today, they really will be absolutely, I think, astounded by how good it is.
Oh, wow! What a plug for the stadium.
And I'm not on a cut from the architect either. It is just a fantastic place.
What's this? These notes that are being put into
BBC, don't forget that.
I know, the most integrity-filled organisation in the world. By the way, I wanted to say something about the BBC. Did you see the preview programme on Wednesday night where they had Thierry Henry reading the Baudelaire poem before the Gary Lineker's preview show?
No, I only saw the end of that. I saw the last 20 minutes or so because honestly I was working in our hotel in Johnstone, and I only put the television on right at the end and saw it. But people saw that programme and they've mentioned that and said it was quite a sort of standout feature of it.
It was absolutely exquisite. It's one of the greatest pieces of editing and music. Nobody does it like you fellas. So
the staff are all just staying in our hotel, so if you want to whip around and tell them that, I'm sure they'd be very pleased.
I would love to. Phil, it's been I do want to ask you one more quick question, because we always do. If not England, which who? I mean, France, we are actually a day after the first game, which I'm sure you probably realised. They were a bit stuttery last night, but they look like a host who's just kind of revving up the car and about to then...
And they've also got some outstanding players. Yes. I mean, Payet last night was just fantastic. Pogba wasn't at his best, but we know how outstanding he is. And there's one or two others lurking off the bench, people like Martial, who may yet come and make an impact. If you're asking me who will win it other than England, I think... to be perfectly boring about it, you always look at Germany. A number of tournaments I've been at, when you watch Germany at the start, you think not up to much, and then comes to the end, and they're there. The hosts, as you say, they had that hosts look about them last night, didn't they? Slow start, but suddenly the momentum will build, the country will be behind them. And also, you look at a squad that haven't achieved anything really at international level, but you look at the squad and they think they might. It's Belgium.
Yeah,
Belgium
we keep saying
got some outstanding players, but their results have been a bit mixed. Again, usual suspects really, Spain, but I would say not England, then Germany, with maybe the hosts as well, because host country is always a factor, and there was a great atmosphere apparently in the Stade de France last night. The country is really behind this. It's an emotional thing as well after what happened in Paris in November. This is almost like the chance for France to make a statement.
Absolutely.
And the support was fantastic. We're here, ready to go. Now we just can't wait for it to start.
Absolutely. France-Germany final, I think, is what you're saying. If England don't get there,
hopefully England in there.
Absolutely. Phil McNulty, as always, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for giving us your time. And let's go and enjoy. Hopefully,
see you in 2 years.
Hopefully, a bit not that long, but thanks very much, Phil.